Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wedding Salons, Planning a Wedding Amidst Social Distancing. We wanted to welcome everybody here today, and we know that this is a difficult time and a confusing time for a lot of our couples, and certainly a lot of us, even that are in the industry, as we're trying to figure out our new normal and trying to figure out social distancing guidelines and we're very happy to have this webinar today to welcome an incredible group of panelists that will hopefully answer a lot of your questions, most of your questions, if not all of your questions, in the hopes of helping you and guide you in this difficult time and the wedding planning process. And feel free as we go along to please send questions to the chat. We would love to hear from you. And so my name is Tatiana Byron. I'm CEO founder of Wedding Salon, and I'm just here to serve you. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity, really appreciate the opportunity to bring the community together. So we will begin by having our panelists introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about where they're from and who they are. And then we'll start out with a couple of questions that we will have from our side, and then we'll open it up to the floor to all of our brides that are listening. And so we will go ahead and start with Monica.
Hello, everybody. Well, first of all, congratulations on your engagement and this exciting time of planning your wedding. So I am Regional Sales Director for Jumbie Bay Island, which is a private resort right just 2 miles off mainland Antigua. And with that said, we are a private island, so we are social distancing just in the normal world pre this crazy situation we're in right now. We are currently closed, but we are reopening the entire resort on October 12th. We have suites, we have villas, and we have private residences. So guests can choose to be sort of in a suite accommodation with their private entrance or in your own little cocoon in your private residence with a full staff of butler, house manager, and private chef, of course. So I'll probably answer some of those other questions, bake in a little bit more of what we can offer, but Jumbie Bay is really about feeling remote without a long travel time and just in a beautiful environment. So thank you for listening today.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to go there. And Dawn?
Hi, everyone. Tatiana, thank you so much for putting this together. We're really excited to be a part of this. My name is Dawn Costello. I am the Associate Publisher for Modern Luxury Weddings, South Florida and the Caribbean. So Modern Luxury Weddings we're actually the only luxury publication in South Florida, but Modern Luxury Weddings and the Modern Luxury portfolio, we kind of play in the luxury space. And we are definitely all about weddings. I should have started with, of course, the congratulations on your engagement. I was thinking if, planning a wedding is so terrifying and exhilarating and exciting, prior to COVID being an issue. So I feel like if you can get through this process during these times, you've got a pretty good chance of your marriage being successful. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Brian?
Good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations. I am Ryan Curran, the Director of Sales for the brand new Aloft Delray Beach Hotel. We do weddings, all kinds of events, and then we have a hotel on top. So we do everything. And I know, as everyone's saying, planning a wedding in general is as stressful as can be. And now I'm sure people are starting to lose their minds. But hopefully today, because of Wedding Salon, we can address all of your questions and concerns so you can feel comfortable moving forward with everything and have the best day ever.
Thank you so much. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Do you want to introduce yourself to us, even though I know you for forever, but would love for everyone to hear?
Yes, absolutely. I'm Amy Allen. I'm the group publisher of Modern Luxury Weddings. We have weddings, magazines, websites, Instagram, all of that in 9 different markets across the country. We cater to the luxury wedding market. We've worked with Wedding Salon for many, many years on all of your bridal shows, and so happy to have our magazine in your gift bags and just have this wonderful partnership. We're back in our offices, you can see, just this week, downtown Chicago. It's been a little stressful, to say the least, but we're getting through it and staying positive.
Thank you so much. Karen.
Hello, everyone, and congratulations. I'm so excited to be here representing Ladera Resort St. Lucia. I'm the U.S. Sales and Marketing person for Ladera. And at Ladera, we really pride ourselves on creating unforgettable moments for our guests on our volcanic ridge, which is a very unique experience. And every single suite has a private plunge pool with the incredible view of the Tetons and the Caribbean Sea. We basically are doing a wedding of 60 is a perfect number. Of course, we could get 80 in there if you were going to do a buyout or something like that, or maybe even more. We have a lovely space called Villa Paradise Ridge for that, as well as we are very well known for our honeymoons because of the romance at the resort. But because we are a 3-wall resort without a 4th wall, and so it's considered an open air design. It's very unique and really adds to a very memorable wedding. So if you need any other information, our website really has, you just open it and you are there at the resort. And we're delighted to offer anything you might need. And we do have a special promotion that we are offering for the guests who are coming on today.
I have to say I've been to Ladera, and it's one of my all-time favorite, most romantic, beautiful places on earth. Granted, I didn't marry the person I was with, but it was amazing. Tina.
Good morning. Thank you for having me this morning. I'm Tina Hashioka from one and only Palmilla, the legendary resort in Los Cabos. I'm the Weddings and Celebrations Manager. We book celebrations and weddings from 2 to 250 guests. We could do intimate weddings for 2 or intimate weddings for 40 guests, as well as full resort buyouts. So we have a lot of open air space, oceanfront event space to really allow for guests to expand on the resort and really privatize the one and only experience. I'm also happy to inform you that we're opening our new resort, one and only Mandarina in Riviera Nayarit. Sorry about that. Just near the Puerto Vallarta and Punta Mita, Sayulita area. So it's a great new destination for one and only. We are opening November 1st. And the beauty of Mandarina is that we have all freestanding villas. So, and ocean cliff tree houses. So during this time of social distancing, our resort was built with freestanding villas and tree houses, as well as private homes, which all have, all of our accommodations do have infinity pools, so individual infinity pools. So we book intimate weddings as well as full resort buyouts for that property as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think we're going to start with, I'm going to ask the same question to all the panelists, and if you could answer in the same order we just have gone, and then we're going to start taking, we've received already a number of questions from our brides, and then I'll open that up to whomever would like to answer. But the first question is, how have you handled social distancing in regards to reopening? Have you reopened? And of course, if you can share with us, you know, what measures are you taking or have you taken to be able to do events? And we'll start with you, Monica.
Yes, so Jumbay Bay is currently closed. We will be reopening on October 12th for the entire resort. And as we are a full service, all-inclusive luxury resort, we have several restaurants. It's a lot of interaction within the restaurants with the activities, but it also can be very personalized. In terms of what we have done pre-closing, we had some of our restaurants had some of the meals that had buffets that was obviously removed. And right now, as we're closed, we're working to implement a lot of different protocols The one beauty about being a private island is that we have our 300 acres all to ourselves. Only 20% of the island is consumed by our suites and villas and the restaurant, and the rest of the 80% is our beaches, our sanctuary, the farm, which also gives us the opportunity to really privatize what we can do for the guests, whether it's for a wedding and it's a honeymoon, and we can, even if the guest is staying in a suite and they want to have a little bit more private, or if somebody's staying in a villa, they can be private. So we can really utilize that space, whether it is a complete buyout of the entire island or just certain events for that time when they're there for their wedding. And also, like I think Karen mentioned, we're also very big on honeymoons because it's a very nice way to get away easily, quickly, but you're still very close to home, but feeling very remote at the time. So we've done all the physical distancing, but migrating the protocols that we found necessary, whether it's in the spa, whether it's in the restaurants, and we also can use a lot of our outdoor space, doing seating differently. For guests staying in the suites, we can also be creative there. If they want to go to the restaurants and have their meals there, that's, obviously will be open, but we then can organize if they want to have a dinner at the beach, they want to do it back at the farm, but they want to do it private. All of our villas, they have full kitchens, so we can organize so a private chef can come in there. We also have many smaller destination weddings that take place in one of the big homes that we have. Our 21 private residences are up to 25 square feet of indoor space. One of them have a 6,000 square foot freeform pool.
Wow.
Home for, yes, that specific home is can sleep 12 guests, but the owner there, all of these are privately owned, the owner there allows up to 60 people for social gatherings there. So obviously, depending on how the group is combined, if there want to be that many, but you can be in your home and you can have a private event right there by the pool and then moving on to the beach. We have the farm, which is also our pop-up venue for our farm to table dinner. That can be privatized. It could be for a rehearsal dinner. It could be for the breakfast after. We have our estate house, which is our indoor-outdoor dining. We can tent it. We just purchased a smaller island off Jumbie Bay that is a completely empty island that we can do basically whatever we want. So we have a lot of different options there. We are not restrained to more than our 300 acres, which is a fairly nice space to work with. And also our event manager on the island, she will work with the bride every the way, from getting the marriage license to personalize this. And that's what our piece is, really to personalize and to tailor make it for what you want it to be when you come to the island.
Thank you. Dawn?
So I can kind of share what's going on in South Florida relative to the openings. So the Keys opened up pretty much before anybody else before Miami-Dade and before Broward, and I'll let Ryan speak more to what's going on in Palm Beach. But everything is, Fort Lauderdale just started to open up, and everything is moving forward. It's interesting speaking to these properties. Everything, a little heads in beds, business is coming through the doors, but really they're seeing a huge uptick in weddings and wedding inquiries and wedding bookings, which is a little abnormal, especially because this is not engagement season. So lots of good news for the wedding world. We break our planners down kind of, we have our platinum players, which are the 250,000 plus budgets, and then everyone else that falls down to about 50,000. So from 50,000 to 250,000, those planners are still seeing, bookings and people being willing to social distance. The platinum planners are the weddings that have, the brides, they don't want any part of social distancing. They really want to postpone, and they really want that guest count. They don't seem to be too eager to reduce the guest count. But outside of that, it's the weddings are moving forward, and our world is opening up. So
Thank you so much for sharing. I see Karen is next on my screen.
So Ladera is definitely, we're opening July 1. That is what we're told, and that could still change a little, but it looks like July 1. We're very excited, and we've really put in some amazing implementation for our guests. And just like every other luxury resort, which I'm sure everyone is doing. But we kind of start our process right at the airport. So when the guest does come off, they are put into a car by our hotel representative greeting them at the airport. They're going right into a car that we've already approved, that has come from us and is sanitized and with all the St. Lucia government regulations. And then the guests will receive a nice welcome package when they arrive in the car, because it will have a tech wipe, which they can clean off their phone or any of their technology that they've had from the plane. And they're sanitizing for their hands, and a mask just in case they don't have one for some reason, or that got dirty, or, just having another one with the germs. And then also some water just for refreshment. And then when they get to the resort, we've got a whole process of what they will go through. Just so that everybody does know, right now, St. Lucia, to arrive, to stay in a hotel, you actually have to have a COVID negative test done 24 to 48 hours prior to. What's really great is there really are no COVID cases right now in St. Lucia. So that's a huge positive. So we're trying to keep it that way. And the government has put in some strict regulations for that, but that will help a lot. And then you will have to have your temperature checked. That's the key things. The other thing that's put forth by the government is that guests will have to wear face masks when in contact with guests and other guests, and also employees. And the great part about Ladera is it's really easy to be mask free, because you can basically do everything in your suite. We can do everything for your wedding in your suite, because you've got your pool already. You already have your table, and you have your amazing view. So we can bring Dashing Restaurant into your suite. We can bring anything you need into your suite, so you can just enjoy your whole vacation without a mask, and then just sort of put it on when you need to. So, and we do have a great farm to table restaurant too. So that's all fresh vegetables and everything that are coming right off of our trees. So those are all, already sanitized. So that's where we are now.
Thanks so much. Ryan, how about yourself?
So we are open for hotel guests only right now. Here in Palm Beach County, we are still under a 10-person maximum for social events. So we are waiting just to hear when we are actually able to enter the next phase and host larger events. But as to what Dawn was saying, the planning has not stopped. And I have certainly seen an increase in our bookings for December of 2020 and early 2021. Because as she was saying, a lot of people just don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the masks and everything. So they're just kind of pushing it back. But here in the hotel, we did not close. We were lucky enough to stay open as we were hosting essential workers, which that ended about mid-May. We were able to take on regular guests, and now we are just seeing tons of people here on staycations. So the hotel is actively sanitizing after every check-in. By the pool, our housekeeping staff is constantly going around sanitizing restrooms and doors. And our food and beverage operation is limited, but it is still available right now in the evenings. So we are slowly going back to a regular normal. But yeah, we are seeing a large number of 2021 bookings and local residents here on staycations, which has been just great. And we are also offering sanitizer throughout the entire property. We do also have masks available. We do ask that while in the building, in the public areas, that you are wearing a mask. And then as far as hotel rooms, we are, after you do check out, we are sanitizing the room and keeping it empty for 3 to 4 days afterwards, just to be sure that, you know, we've gotten everything and or any of our guests are not at any harm whatsoever.
Wow, that's great to know. Brian, we missed it with the introductions. Hello.
Hey, welcome. I'm Brian Postel, president of Resort Destination Weddings, and my company, we represent resorts in the Caribbean for their wedding and honeymoon representation. Definitely missing the shows that I missed out this spring in New York, but hopefully we'll get back to those soon. At the moment, the resorts that I represent, they are still closed. Some are looking to open in mid-July. Right now, each island is working kind of from a different set of requirements for the opening. Most of them, of course, are going to be limited, a percentage, as Ryan mentioned, 10% for social events. That varies from island to island right now when they do open. Everything, of course, face mask, hand sanitizer, no buffets, mostly all events to be outside when we do reopen. However, a lot of the brides for the properties I represent had moved their weddings because of COVID to the fall, thinking that things may change by then. Right now, they're hitting the panic button and now are either wanting to cancel or move into 2021 because of the uncertainty, even in the fall, if things are going to change. But 2021 and beyond, leads are picking back up for future destination weddings and honeymoons. One of my islands, Jamaica, has just reopened, and we'll see how that progresses over the next few weeks and how that opening goes.
Thank you so much. Beth.
Hi. Thank you all for being here. So I am a pretty similar situation as Ryan's, but we are on the west coast of Florida. So we have remained open throughout the pandemic. We have been welcoming guests throughout the entire time. We're fortunate enough to have a private beach, so we have access to that for even when our public beaches in our area were closed. So we are doing some similar things in terms of additional sanitation processes and that sort of thing, but we have actually been hosting events since June. We have had a couple of events since then. We have a few on the calendar coming up for next weekend, so we're excited about those. We're allowed, our recommendation currently is no more than 50, so we're keeping things to those numbers, mostly recommending that brides seat guests in quarantine groups or family groups as much as possible, and then making sure that each of the spaces that they're in allows for social distancing. So those things have been working really well for us.
Thank you. And Tina.
Hi. So One and Only Palmilla is currently closed. The safety and well-being of our guests and colleagues is the most important element in making the decision factor of opening date. So that'll be hopefully in the near future, so we can start our hosting our events and celebrations again. We are taking active measures and safety protocols from the guest experience upon arrival at the airport with our transportation, all the way to the guest arrival at the resort. We are doing a thermal temperature check-in as any guest comes to the property to make sure that no one has a fever. If so, we do have an on-site doctor at the resort. We're transitioning all our collateral into digital, so it's available at the palm of our guests. So menus, any in-room collateral is going to be digital. As far as safety protocols, of course, we're doing all the social distancing. We're working on diagrams for all our events to incorporate that. We also are tailoring our mini bars, so we won't have the mini bars, stocked. It'll all be tailored for the guest preferences. We have butler service, so all the amenities, anything that would be offered in our One and Only experience, will all be customized and based on the clients and guest preferences. So I've been really busy booking new weddings, as well as weddings that were going to take place in the state. So maybe a large wedding for 200 or 300 guests in the states that considered during this time, they still want to get married. They don't want to wait till next year. So I've been booking quite a few weddings for the fall, this fall, and it's a smaller guest count, so maybe 50, 60 guests. A few weddings that we're going to have an intimate wedding in the States are eloping now and extending their stay. So their budget for their overall wedding, they're like, you know what, let's go stay at the resort for a week and, you know, really get that guest experience. So, and 2021 is, you know, we're booking weddings. People are, I think, are ready to celebrate. Our loyal guests are ready to come back to the resort to enjoy the stay. So, and for One and Only Mandarina, we open November 1st. So we'll be taking all those protocols as well.
Great. And then Amy.
So, well, I'm in Chicago, and the state of weddings and social distancing here is far, far behind the southern states. Obviously, we have markets in Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, South Florida, which is Dawn, Philly, Boston, and California. So we are hearing when we have our group company calls where things are at. So the Midwest, unfortunately, for the larger city like Chicago, we're still at 10 max capacity. Most of the weddings, hardly any weddings were canceled. They were all postponed, many being optimistic for fall, the majority into 2021. Our events industry has been incredible. They've just tried to pivot and create these mini micro wedding options, which we've seen so far 2 of one of our top planners have in the last weekend, and they submitted to us, to the magazine, to actually cover it, and we're going to cover one of them. They did it beautifully, really well done. You know, sanitizing, the guests were comfortable. So that's probably the biggest thing we're seeing until we know we can have 200 plus size capacity. We're really at the mercy of the governor and the mayor right now, and there's still a lot of unknowns. So from that perspective, brides and grooms are feeling more comfortable pushing into 2021. That said, if we get the go-ahead in August for 200 capacity, I think we're going to have a pretty large influx of maybe couples that, like, you know what, that's a great venue, I want to get in now, let's go. So I'm hoping that we'll instantly have, like, we're gonna have to work fast. Our planners and vendors are going to be prepared for that, but everyone's just kind of like in a wait and see crisis right now. I have to say, I'm loving all of the resort options though, the Jumbie Bay or the Don Cesar Florida. I think you guys are going to probably first choices for a lot of couples in the near future over what we're dealing with here in Chicago. So social distancing and sanitation has been a top priority. We have one event company actually that pivoted his business, and he now does sanitation. It's called a Platinum Sanitation, and he goes in and cleans out the space for any type of business, but he's incorporating it. Once the decor part goes back to business, he's going to incorporate into his business plan that he has the capacity of sanitizing any venue space beforehand. So there's been a lot of really positive new business moves while we're trying to get through this.
Thank you so much. And speaking to that, so one of the first questions we have from brides is, what are some creative ways your couples are incorporating social distancing measures, i.e. face mask, seating, etc.? And I'm going to open it up to the group. Would anyone care to start to share, to give some advice to our couples?
I've had a couple of people coming in and asking, you know, just in case that for the fall we're still in this situation. And one of my brides actually had a really, really great idea of doing a masquerade theme. So they can pre-order, you know, prettier but still safe masks, and then doing smaller centerpieces but larger tables to, you know, say 5 to 6 people where you'd normally have 10 to 12 people, but still doing that smaller centerpiece so you can still talk with everyone around your table, and then leaving just space for a larger dance floor.
That's great. I like the masquerade theme. Anybody else care to share and give our brides some tips on how to incorporate social distancing into their weddings?
I had a bride, this was before pre-COVID. She actually live streamed her wedding. So I think that is an option that we'll be doing as well for those guests, maybe guests that aren't comfortable traveling or elderly guests that may not want to, that aren't comfortable leaving the home, is to have the option to live stream the wedding. So for this particular wedding, the father of the bride couldn't make it, he was ill. So they live streamed the entire wedding. And it was very special. So there was a full monitor as well as a live stream real-time wedding.
Was this a Zoom wedding or what? Yeah, a lot of brides are.
It wasn't a Zoom wedding. It was at the resort, and we had a cameraman, and it was actually live.
Wow.
So, mhm.
That's fantastic. What a great idea. How many guests did they have? Or did they have no guests? It was just the couple?
They had 150 guests. So this was before COVID. So it was a real wedding. Unfortunately, the father became ill and couldn't make it. So she live streamed the entire wedding for her father.
Great. Wow. And anyone else care to share or have any ideas for our brides?
Well, us as a private island, we have more almost like a semi-private transfer. When they arrive to the airport, everybody will go in their private car, and it's our catamaran taking them over for a 7-minute boat ride to the island. And then our sort of expertise would be more of smaller weddings, up to 60 people, 50, 60 people would be ideal. And whether they then have their options of having it for a long weekend or, depending on how length of the wedding would be. But the couple of themselves could be in a home. We then can work around that premises of that private home since they're so large. So then the guests could stay in the suites, but then we can incorporate everything within a home that is sort of their own little cocoon, or privatize it at all the different venues that we have on the island. And if you would be 60 people there, you would still be fairly private. There might be other guests there, but then they might be in other private homes, and they're also already in their separate area. So although we are in resort, you can be as private as you want. So obviously we haven't had any weddings yet because we are closed, but it's really to maximize the space that we have and just making it as personal as possible. So, but I do like Ryan's idea of the masquerade theme there. That's a pretty cool one, I have to say.
So another question that's come in has to do with contracts. A lot of brides sign contracts that either they're trying to get out of, they're trying to postpone, and they now have a coveted Saturday and they want to go to a coveted Saturday, or they're trying to figure out a way to utilize the guarantee in different ways. Can someone share on how you're handling your situations with brides and what they can hope to expect from their venues?
We've had a number of weddings, of course, in the spring that had to be moved to the fall. We've evaluated each one on a case-by-case basis, allowing them to move to other dates as we had openings. We're fortunate enough to have a variety of spaces for receptions at our hotel, so it was nice to be able to fit some weddings into different areas, and looking at their guest count, that some of them anticipated being a little bit lower perhaps, gave us some flexibility in being able to move them. But we were able to just fully transfer their deposit in those scenarios to the new date. So we were really lucky in terms of timing, and just happy to be able to help those panicked phone calls that we were getting and make their day a little more special. We've also had several couples who chose to get married on their original date. We allowed them to use a space out on our beach or in our courtyard to do a very small intimate ceremony. So they still had their actual wedding date, and then they're doing a big reception in the fall or 2021.
Anyone else care to share how they're handling these sensitive contract questions with their couples?
For us, I'm really just working as best I can with each couple and seeing what they want to do. I think that this situation is a lot different than I know anything I've ever experienced. So I'm finding it difficult to not work with what they're looking for. If they want to cancel, I mean, personally, we're refunding deposits because I'd rather them, kind of take that back and have the day that they want when they're ready, than to force them into something and then it just not be what they are expecting, what they are dreamed about. And then we're just, we're hoping that they move their date and continue to stay with us. But I would say out of about 20 weddings, 18 of them did reschedule and 2 of them canceled, just because they felt that their guests weren't going to be able to actually travel here and be able to have fun. So I don't think that that's something that we can really penalize the couples for right now.
To that point, if they sign a contract that commits them to 200 guests and all these out of town people don't want to fly, they still want to get married with, even the new date. How do you recommend they handle, that guarantee? Do you offer a brunch? Do you offer a rehearsal dinner, welcome dinner? Do you do rooms? Are you able to make up that? If they're still tied to the guarantee, can you offer them more things, or are they just stuck?
No, absolutely. I know for us, we would, work with them, like you said, maybe doing a rehearsal dinner with the difference in the guest count, or putting it towards some hotel rooms for maybe their parents or for whoever. Because I know a lot of people have lost their jobs right now, so traveling is hard, but perhaps we can let them take that money and put it towards other people coming.
Anyone else care to share on their experience with that?
I can jump in here. I think to Ryan's point, almost everybody that we work with down here, not just the venues, but everybody involved in the wedding planning process has really been taking it case by case. Of course, we thought we had seen it all with contracts and had everything tight and solid in the wording. But that was pre-pandemic. Nobody was really prepared for this. So I can say that it's pretty case by case, just really trying to work with everyone. Obviously trying to maintain the wedding, not lose the wedding, just move them to a different date. I do think it will have a big impact on the way contracts. I know a lot of the planners are shifting the way that they charge and shifting their pricing format to accommodate a situation like this. Should we ever, be in the situation again? The venues have learned a little bit more, and they're taking that and tweaking the contracts moving forward.
So I've spoken to quite a few different brides, and they have been looking for, so maybe they have a huge wedding, maybe 200, 300 people. And what they've done is called us, and having maybe just doing a small wedding with us, maybe with 10 to 30 people here in St. Lucia. And then, or either that, and then what they would do is change the date of their big wedding, maybe pushing it forward. I know one pushed it forward for an entire year for the big, huge wedding at the original place that they were having it, but they decided to get married and have it more intimate at our resort and then go and have the big wedding with everybody there. I feel like that seems to be a trend with the type of resort we are, which is, 37 suites. The other thing we're finding is people are, if they decide to change to, 60-person wedding, which is, 37 suites, then they're actually going to looking for a smaller venue, because then you can actually buy out the entire venue and not have to worry about the restaurant, the spot and everything else with other guests. It's just your guest. And so you're kind of cohabitating with just your people and buying out the spa. So that's just something that I think was a good idea.
So we just saw another question come in, and that is, if a staff member gets sick at your hotel that was serving the guests, and or what if a guest tests positive or has a fever or something, like what protocols are you following after the fact, to protect the rest of the guests? Can anyone share on that?
Well, I could share what we have our staff members to have temperature checks, before each shift. And in terms of their uniforms, it will be changed on the island. So everything should be, it's taken care of on an every day by day basis. And the guests are checked at the airport for temperature checks. We also have a 24/7 nurse or doctor on the island, and also being able to have immediate access to mainland for medical assistance should that be needed. So the checks have been done. So hopefully we will continue being as COVID-free as we have been, because Antigua has basically been COVID-free through this. That should hopefully stop anybody from catching anything when they're there, because everybody has been checked free every day in terms of the staff, but also the guests free coming on to the island.
We're doing the same thing that Monica is in St. Lucia. We're doing it all before the guests get there and before they get into the hotel resorts. Everyone is going through temperature check, and it's not just the guest, it's also the staff, any drivers, anyone entering is being checked. So I think the preventative measure is putting in there to alleviate the having to deal with everything else later.
Another question just came in, which I think is a great question, and that is, how should couples rearrange their budget to include social distancing measures while keeping costs at bay or keeping costs low? I'm going to start that one off actually with you, Amy, as the ultimate resource for a question like this.
Yes. Yeah, that's a difficult thing. Well, so I think some vendors prices might actually increase because measures are going to be taken to care for the guests, which costs money for the sanitizer and masks. So, but talking with the industry, everyone is trying to be fair and understanding. We're all in this, so we know the brides and grooms are financially impacted. We know the vendors are financially impacted. I don't think brides and grooms should naturally think that the costs are going to be less expensive for these vendors, because what they're offering and the products and their services are of high quality, and there's only so much they can do to give, and at the same time their costs are going to go up due to the sanitation prices. The gives would be obviously the size of the weddings. You go smaller, the price will naturally reduce a little bit, but I think quality and the cost of that is invaluable. And so it's not about necessarily being cheaper. You want to make sure that you're getting the right value and quality price of what they're providing. So that would be my best advice, is that not necessarily automatically think that things are going to be less expensive.
Anybody else care to share on the subject of budget?
Well, I think, like Amy was saying, for luxury destinations and venues, we don't want to sacrifice, obviously, the quality and the level. And also obviously having to implement certain other protocols to be in line with the safety measurements. So the prices, I think the prices won't go down because we do want to keep the quality and the experience just as it was pre this. So I think it may be, smaller weddings might be something that would be more of a trend rather than the big ones.
So as a planner, I would like to say that, certainly you do need to budget for things like hand sanitizer. You do need to budget for things like masks. If you're getting married now or potentially in the fall when, a second wave is supposed to hit. The other thing is, of course, you are going to potentially need to have less guests because you have to accommodate the social distancing guidelines and not pack in 12 people at a table, as I think Ryan had mentioned earlier, how he'll have 5, 6 people at a table. And so all these different things are definitely going to impact costs. But if you have less guests and you originally planned for more guests, then the budget shouldn't be impacted greatly. And you'll be able to utilize that budget on these other things to make sure that your guests feel safe and that you feel safe. Another question that just came through, and that is handling payments with their venues and catering halls. So some brides have been impacted with losing their jobs, and couples are concerned that they can't make payments. Are any of you working with your couples and extending payment terms to help them? Especially the ones that obviously want to get married, want to pay, but just need a little bit of time, specifically also because their weddings have been postponed from, let's say, September to next September. Can anyone share on that?
I can share on that. So at One and Only Palmia, we're being really flexible and considering the situation of our guests. So we do review on a case-by-case basis, but certainly if a wedding is postponed and they're asking for their payment schedule to be postponed, we could update it to match the new event date. So yes, we're definitely working. We have a loyal guest following at the resort. We want to maintain that relationship with our clients and guests. So we're being really flexible and really trying to be understanding and compassionate during this time.
Same with me in the Caribbean. We were being very flexible, with monies that are due as they move the weddings to the fall. But going back to the question earlier about increased costs, one of the things in a couple of the islands that I work with, the vendors that we rely on, photographers, officiants, florists, some of them are no longer going to be in business, which could definitely affect availability, but then budgeting as well for that wedding, because those smaller businesses have not been able to survive this at this time, unfortunately. So there could be, for destination weddings, some increased cost for the support vendors to make up that wedding and reception.
You brought up an excellent point, and we do caution our brides to really discuss this with their vendors and understand if they're going to be in business, or if they can't get in touch with people and they don't think that they're going to be available for their weddings, and certainly to not give 100% deposits or even 50% deposits, and to be able to do payment plans so that people are indeed available on their date if it's a year from now. Anybody else care to share on that?
Well, pretty much in St. Lucia, I think that our prices are going to stay pretty much the same. I mean, at least at Ladera. We may need to, here and there for different food products, increase if there's issues getting it, but a lot of it is done there in St. Lucia, and we have a lot of farms. Our restaurant and our food that we prepare is farm to table. All the fruit and veggies we get, we actually grow ourselves, and most of the farms do. So I think, as far as that goes and products in St. Lucia, I think you'll get to keep the same price for your wedding, hopefully.
And so another question just came in. So with social distancing rules in place, what are some specific options for food and beverage can brides implement? I.e., no more buffet, they have to do plated, but can anyone share some ideas for couples in this regard?
I can share a little bit about that just based on what we've been doing so far. We do have a lot of couples that prefer a buffet or stations meal over a plated meal, and we want to still be able to accommodate that as social distancing as possible. So what we've been doing for those guests that still want to have those options is a server served buffet versus a self-serve buffet. So it eliminates some of those touch points for the guests, but they're still able to go through the different stations and the different buffet areas to pick what they want on their plate, and so they can really customize their meal and their food and beverage for their guests that way.
Great. Anybody else can share of what you guys are doing to implement changes in the food and beverage space?
As Beth mentioned, oh, sorry, Ryan. As Beth mentioned, we're omitting self-serve buffets as well as tray passed hors d'oeuvres. So we will no longer offer that option unless the hors d'oeuvre is in a creative package that, you know, other guests may not touch the food item. And we're also having the chefs do the service. So they'll be providing, should the client want stations, it'll be served by our staff, by our colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, agree with both Beth and Tina. The same thing there. It's about just very much being creative with having the staff being there and serving it for them rather than the big congregations of the buffet style, but doing it in more fun ways than just having plated, but it could be done in just a little bit more of different options, whether it's the venue or the way it's served. Obviously to the preference of the couple for the theme of their wedding. And I think it's such a case-by-case basis with everything because it all comes down to the thoughts of what they're having for their wedding, and it's such a personal day, and it really is something that I think all of our properties here, that's what we specialize in, and listening to them, what you guys want to have for your wedding, and we'll work with you. So I think kind of just talking it through and see, and we sort of can make not everything happen, but a lot of it.
Ryan, you wanted to share something?
I'm just suggesting that if, they're not comfortable with having a buffet, but it is something that they really did want, is to just get a little more creative, like the ladies had said, maybe with a plated menu, perhaps adding in an appetizer and an intermezzo or a pasta course, and kind of just making it more of a flavor trip from start to finish. So you can still have a little bit of everything that you wanted, but in a safe and organized fashion.
Great. And so all of you are in this business, just brides are asking, what trends are you seeing? What is your forecast? How are weddings going to change, or how are events going to change in your minds? And I'm going to throw this one to you, Tina.
Okay, I think it's kind of a difficult question for me because I'm still booking the larger weddings, and we allow that because our event space is so well spread out. So I think maybe getting creative, maybe incorporating some type of dine around options on the event space, because at Palmia we have multiple venues that are adjacent and near us, nearby. So I think that's an option. I think guest count, possibly reducing the guest count to make it more intimate wedding, keeping that overall budget and really just giving that creative overall experience for your guests. Maybe it's not going to be 150, it'll be 75, but definitely maintaining that original budget and giving a more memorable, intimate experience for the guests.
Beth, how about you? You're still doing weddings as well. What changes have you seen, and what trends are you predicting?
I think one of the biggest trends, of course, is guest count has been reduced a bit, just in terms of the weddings that we've hosted at this point, and probably moving forward. We have been flexible with our brides in terms of their contracted food and beverage minimum to work with them based on what their new numbers look like. But I think one of the biggest trends that we're definitely going to see more of is one we already talked about, which would be the live stream of either the ceremony or the speeches or maybe the entire reception. We've had couples that are doing that through their Facebook or Instagram Live. So they already have those accounts. They're already friends with all of their guests potentially. They add maybe a few other people or have some different users on their account, but it really works well for them to have a platform to really share the experience with the guests that aren't able to come.
How about you, Karen? What are you seeing?
So pretty much what I've already kind of talked about, where that bride is calling us saying, hey, we've decided we have our big wedding, but we're going to now push that off for a year or whatever it might be, or 6 months. And we're going to come to you, get married with a couple people. and, you know, call that our wedding and then have our big wedding. So aside from that, we've also got more people wanting to come and, you know, looking for that small venue where you can actually buy out the whole venue because of the number of rooms. And also just those two people coming alone by themselves. I mean, we have a free wedding package. So if you come and you book your free wedding package for 7 nights, it covers the two of you for your little ceremony and covers all the needs that you have because you have to get licensed in St. Lucia and stuff like that. And it's just this small, you know, package and for two people. So I think everybody, and then they'll go and have the big wedding, you know, that they were planning in the state. So that's kind of what we've seen, and it's been exciting for us. So, but we're trying to make it a positive for all of the brides and giving them joy and hope, which has been really great, positive for us.
Amy?
Yeah, I'd like to jump in.
Of course.
Definitely the technology. I agree with that. There's going to be more virtual opportunities with events. Two-day events. So for the resorts, having the more intimate wedding and then have a larger celebration later. So I think we're going to see more of the 2-date events. And then every day is a wedding day. So Thursday, Friday, Sundays are going to be more okay. I think it's always been kind of on the outskirts, but because of 2021 being so popular now, there's just going to be some couples that, why don't we try a Thursday or why don't we try a Sunday? I don't know how that will affect the resorts, but I think in the resort case, it'll be 2 weddings that you'll get. You'll get the initial and then the larger celebrations. I love that trend anyway, in general. It's like the 2 wedding dresses. That's just become huge. Everyone wears 2 wedding dresses. You have to have 2 weddings. So yeah, those are kind of the big, and in the immediate terms, it's going micro, and that's great too. In Chicago, we actually have a lot of new venues that opened up smaller in size, and they were worried we're not going to get the weddings because we're too small. Well, who knew? They're actually prime for having smaller space. So having more small space options.
That's great. And does anybody care to share as well? Monica, Ryan, Brian, did you want to add anything to trends?
I do agree with Amy though, and I think it's going to be definitely, I mean, if you have planned your wedding, your mind is set there. You want to go ahead with it. So I do think a trend of having the smaller, whether it's the 2 of you or just like immediate family, but then you do want to celebrate it with your family and friends, and, you know, postponing it to a later date, I think for sure. And it's like you're carrying on the celebration, whether it's a few months later or a year later. So I do think, I do like the 2 wedding dresses as well.
Love it. Ryan?
No, I mean, I think everything that I'm seeing is, you know, I like the ladies had said, I agree that I think we're going to see a lot of 2 weddings. The venues are going to see a lot less ceremonies and more just receptions, because now they're going to beautiful places like St. Lucia and Mexico, and they're doing those intimate ceremonies, and then just coming back next year, 2022, whenever they feel that they're ready, and just having that big party.
Excellent. And so we are at our end, and I wanted to thank, first of all of our amazing panelists for sharing and giving guidance to our couples, and really appreciate you all being here. It's been amazing to see you and connect with you, and thank you to all of our brides that joined in to our webinar series. We have many more of these coming up with lots of incredible people that will share their knowledge with you. And so we're very excited to have you join us today. And there will be a recording of this available to those that were not able to join us. And from Wedding Salon, just thank you, everybody, and stay safe. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.